So localizers have been in the news lately as more and more people become aware of the corruption in that industry, where instead of doing an honest and genuine job at translating the source material, many localizers are instead altering the context to fit their own personal worldviews, as well as at times interjecting overt political viewpoints that had nothing to do with the original material. Now, this actually presents an opportunity for localizers to show the fans that they do actually care about the source material in the Japanese ACG industries. For example, they could thank people for bringing the corruption of other localizers to their attention and say something like they don't want their line of work being dragged down by those who are making the aforementioned malicious changes, phrased in their own way. But the point is they could say something like that. But nah, apparently that's asking too much. Way too much apparently. Because instead of that, we got localizers doubling down, gaslighting people, and insulting the fans. Now, before we proceed, if you're out of the loop on what's been going on, to be fair, this stuff has been happening for years, and there is a lot to recap in full. However, my previous segment on localizers from just a few days ago does give you a bit of a TLDR in the first portion of that video, so if you missed that one and are out of the loop on this stuff, consider checking that segment out too, and I'll have it linked in the description for you. On to the rest of today's segment. We'll be taking a look at a number of responses from localizers to the recent backlash that I think you'll find rather amusing. Starting with this tweet with over 1,800 likes, we've got Chisei saying, "It's absolutely hilarious seeing localizers trying their hardest to justify the usage of Western buzzwords in unrelated media," and including this screenshot. Starts with a bit of back and forth here in the screenshot talking about localizations and the context being changed to match the target culture, so to speak, with presumably the localizer Arara saying localization to make sure the impact, the vibes, the underlying and overt meaning, etc. are conveyed. And then adding this, saying, "And yes, sometimes that means using yeet, sus, incel, etc." Back to Chisei, they had quoted the deliver the vibes and impact part of what we just read and said, "Lol, yeah, this is totally not forcing Western culture war buzzwords on foreign media to quote-unquote own the weaves." And we can see an example of a fan translation versus a localization, where the fan translation had said, "Who cares what those losers say?" And the localization saying, "I defy you, you broken-tongued bigots." The fan translation likely being much closer to the original source material. And as you can see, we've got a second example here on screen too. Japanese text and then the fan translation here, which says, "Against me as I am now, a foolish old man will lose quickly, simply, and completely." Versus this localization, which is so freaking weird. I can't believe they actually localized it like this. I'm not even going to repeat this. I'm going to have TTS repeat this.
"Underestimate me and I'll thrash you before you can say adult diaper, you dour-faced fart factory. That'll leave you with plenty of time to make it to senior discount night at the country buffet."
Yeah, just what the heck is freaking... Some of these localizers are so freaking weird, man. How they even come up with stuff like that. Actually, I don't want to know. And as mentioned in this video, it's also crazy how many localizers defend this stuff too. Hey, have you heard of On Scene Japan? It's some website run by some Western dude, lives in Seattle or something like that. But anyways, he became famous for a situation that I actually talked about on this channel years ago, where he attempted to get a Red Cross blood drive canceled in Japan because he was offended that they used Uzaki-chan as a mascot. He basically tried to say that Uzaki-chan was just too sexual and that it's offensive to women and anti-feminist or something like that. And again, just let this sink in. He tried to get a blood drive for people in need canceled because of his offense to Uzaki-chan. Oh, and by the way, this dude even ended up on the news in Japan, where Japanese people had mocked him for his take and said that he was actually being the one discriminatory towards women. And yeah, that's this dude's legacy. Unfortunately, we're talking about this dude again years later because he decided to comment on the localization situation that's currently ongoing. And his bright tweet, very intellectual stuff here, reads, "Anyways, it's clear that woke localizers is based on maybe 5% actual translation errors, generous, and 95% right-wingers pushing a fascist agenda of erasure. Liberalism exists in Japan. Feminism exists in Japan. Queerness exists in Japan. Deal with it." Dude just sounds like a complete nutcase. All anime fans are asking for is accurate translations. And somehow to that dude, that means right-wing fascism. Like, absolutely insane take. Then there's the way he tries gaslighting people, saying that the bad localizations are just translation errors, when in reality, the stuff being criticized is intentional abuse of the source material. And then when he makes all these terrible points, what does he do at the end? Tries to use LGBT people as his own personal shield for his terrible talking points. It's a especially pathetic move, showing his lack of knowledge on the topic, considering that one of the most recent abuses of Japanese source material involved the manga I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend Into a Girl, where the localizers removed the gay relationship in that manga to change it into a trans relationship. The mistake was so bad, and the backlash so much, that the rights holders even forced the company responsible for that localization, 7 Seas Entertainment, to fix it and reprint it. And you probably remember that localizer Katrina defending that butchery of the source material as well, where she tried to lie about the backlash, saying it was just from one rando, which is completely not true. That localization got so much backlash. Here's my point though, and going back to something that I said before, these localizers and their defenders, they just come off so insanely disingenuous. Like they'll literally lie right to your face. Moving right along, we've got this tweet now with over 4,800 likes, once again from Chisei, saying, English voice actors try to get people to sympathize with them, only to end up declaring publicly just how undeserving and entitled they are. And we've got this screenshot that says, Weebs realize the only reason they prefer subs is that it allows them to exoticize and fetishize a culture due to historical superiority complexes in cinema that is deeply rooted in racism challenge level impossible. Once again, these people sound like complete nutcases. So if you prefer subs over dubs, now you're racist. Well, at least according to that unhinged loony. Here's another tweet that went somewhat viral in recent discussions about AI replacing localizers. This person had said, I think a lot of the people terminally angry at JP to English translators don't realize just how different the two languages really are. Some genuinely seem convinced that every single Japanese sentence can be rendered only one way into English perfectly with every little nuance intact. The issue here is, once again, the localization defenders are being disingenuous. Most people by far understand that due to differences in the languages, things can't be translated perfectly one-to-one at times, sure. That doesn't excuse the complete disregard for the original source material that we've seen many localizers display, adding in words like bigotry and patriarchy and incel and mansplaining, when the original IP had not used those words, and they're surely more accurate translations. Then some of just the extremely bizarre things that we've seen the localizers do as well. For example, the part that I had TTS repeat earlier in this video, that whole craziness. I think I turned my childhood friend into a girl situation and stuff like that. None of the main issues people have are acknowledged by these localizers and their defenders. Instead, they misrepresent, they lie, they gaslight, downplay, etc., etc. It's such a bizarre hill for them to die on, especially when they are so clearly in the wrong. These tweets are also making the rounds, where this localizer had said, the discourse around professional translation is already freaking miserable with the prevalence of weirdos who have no idea what they're talking about, prating about a fictitious, malicious localizer boogeyman, so I'd appreciate it if corpos didn't take a big trash in the water. This is in reference to the recent news of Japanese companies looking to use AI to replace localizers. And then the second tweet says, just saw the stupidest freaking post on this website. It's always freaking Fire Emblem with these anti-localizer fools too. As if making a robot spit out incoherent garbage somehow removes the overarching corporate structures that result in content changes in the first place. With Modblut talking about that, saying, this localizer here, by the way, worked on the House of Fata Morgana and is responsible for the quote-unquote fragile male ego line. The original Japanese context had said tsundere, and yeah, this localizer apparently replaced it with fragile male ego. This is actually something I also talked about years ago, so it's interesting seeing this pop up again now. And then the tweet continues saying, also openly spreads the most nasty, misandrist hate in this platform. It's because of people like this why we cheer when localizers lose their jobs to AI. And yeah, that localizer had a history of talking about how much they hate men, how gross men are, how much they want to like delete men, and stuff like that. But yeah, all these localizers and their defenders try and tell people that the localizers aren't malicious at all. There's nothing odd going on here. You're a fascist if you point this out. Right. And that's the segment. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. Consider letting me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments. I look forward to seeing you there. And if you enjoyed this segment, consider liking and or subscribing for more segments like this. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.